My guest today, Brenda Seefeld Amodea, is a pastor, a speaker, wife, Oma, mom of four grown boys or men, right?
They're always my boys, but they're men, yes.
I know they're always right in your heart. That little boy. I have
Oh,
six boys, six
oh
boys, four girls.
yes,
So yeah,
yes.
I get that. Yeah. Well, welcome. So you do some posts on bravery. So why? Why bravery? Where'd that come from?
Uh, well, I wrote for 25 years youth ministry resource site, and I did that for 25 years. And then I kind of got, okay, God, what's next? Not that I left youth ministry, but like, what's next? And when I took a calculation of my life, I was like, I keep making these brave decisions. And I kept digging into what bravery is. And that just, when I figured that out, it just resonated with me. And then I started digging into what bravery is and what brave faith looks like. And I was like, boy, I didn't recognize it. And so then I started writing about that because that was giving me some juice to write about. And I've been doing that now, be 9 years.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Tell me some of your testimony. Where'd you come from? Did you grow up Christian or what's?
I grew up in a good Christian home in Minnesota, born in California, just want to brag, but then I got moved to Minnesota when I was 5. Um, and but I didn't become a Christian myself till I was 15. I had anger issues with God. I mean, probably rightfully so. I just didn't. Anyway, I had some really dark years as a teenager. And God and I, while I was taught God, I was like, God, you did not treat me well. You've left some deficits in me. What's wrong with you that you don't heal me? I had a stutter, and my parents did a really good job of bringing me to healers just to heal because they
Mm,
could see that I was sinking into depression and sinking into myself and into self-hatred. And the healers didn't heal me. And so God doesn't exist, or God, you're not good. And so my self-hatred turned into hatred towards God. And there were some pretty dark years. And I think I pretty scared my parents. But when I was in 10th grade, we changed churches and they sent me on a retreat with this new youth group. And this would be, late 70s. So I'm not talking typical youth ministry. This is a long time ago. And on that retreat, I will never forget, I met 3 beautiful girls who were my age, and they welcomed me. Now, this youth group did not like me. They did not like me. But these 3 beautiful girls welcomed me when we got there and let me hang out with them for that weekend. And I've never had beautiful girls treat me so well before. And so when they told me that Saturday night of the retreat, the big night of commitment, that Jesus loved me,
mm,
I believed it.
mm.
And that dam of anger and self-hatred and mad at God broke. It broke. And I came home from that retreat completely changed. I will not forget my parents. I got dropped off after the retreat when I got back and got dropped off at my house. And my parents
Mm.
saw me get out of the car through the kitchen window, and I saw their faces. They saw my face was changed, and I saw their faces change.
Yeah.
Like their daughter's going to live.
Yeah.
and and then it was then on just again brave faith decisions. I was leading by senior year in high school, I was leading a Bible school for my friends, a Bible study for my friends. And then it wasn't much longer then before I got called into the ministry, and I've been a pastor my whole adult life.
Isn't that something? I think I just hear that kind of story over and over where somebody has that effect on your life, or
Yeah.
somebody accepts you for who you are and sees through into your heart as to who you are and welcomes you in, and then you find out who Jesus really is.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
like, oh, not just a guy up there someplace, whatever, but he's a real person that cares about me.
It it was, I mean, I will never, Gina, Lindy, Tony Rue, and Marie Andreessen, I've never seen them since, but I will never forget that they let me see that Jesus could love me.
Yeah. 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 And then that paves the way to be able to learn to trust.
Yes, yes, which
Yeah.
a lot of brave decisions are needed to trust God. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that whole trust thing, that's huge for everybody. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't have some trust issues, with, right? You know,
Well,
like
that's why I
why?
wrote my Bible study called Trust Issues with God, because
Yeah, yeah,
this is it. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So tell us about that. What kind of like, what are your chapters? How's it broken down? What does that look like?
It is, it's, first of all, I'm a pastor. Now I've been a youth pastor for 40 years, and then I transitioned to being a lead pastor of a kind of a new church plant that began in the pandemic. So this Bible study came out of my church. So this is not just my learning, which is there's a lot of it in there, but everything in here went through my church. And the people in my church said, you need to publish this because people need to hear it. And we kept circling back to trust issues. I could talk about, who God is, and I'll go back to a trust issue, could talk about, oh, we did a great lesson on the parable of the unmerciful judge out of Luke 18. That's a difficult parable. And in my church, we do conversational teaching. It's not, I don't teach at them. I teach conversationally. Just call me an older youth pastor. And and when we did that lesson on the unmerciful judge, they not my church people gave me such a different perspective that it makes that parable understandable. Where in the parable, Jesus teaches that God is this unmerciful judge, or someone in my church was like, oh, God is a jerk. And of course, when we have trust issues, we think God is a jerk.
Yeah.
And then the processing through the parable together and with groupthink going on and different perspectives, we put it all together and we got this beautiful perspective. So that's one chapter. It's 4 weeks. There's video teaching with it, and then there's 5 lessons to do throughout the 4 lessons, excuse me, 4 lessons to do throughout the week, and then a video teaching. So
Mhm.
you can do this alone or in a group like that. But it's a workbook.
Yeah. 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 Well, so now you got me curious. So what did they come up with? He's not
Okay,
unmerciful.
he he is.
Who is this
I
guy you're
think
talking about?
who is this? So in this the parable teaches how the widow kept coming back and asking, and we in our group think was like, when the widow kept coming back, did she change her request over time?
Mm,
Because she learned to see the judge as more and more human over time, instead of the shut down, and then you shut down and you don't try again, and here comes another brave decision. She kept going back. And then did the judge and the widow actually form a relationship,
yeah.
which is what bent the judge to change his mind.
Yeah.
And so it's that consistency of the widow believing she had worth in herself to go back to the judge again and again and again. There was a righteous wrong that happened in her life, so she just kept going back to the judge because this is the way through. And in that process, I think she learned how to know what to really ask of the judge. And the judge then also got to see who she was and that to see her worth and her value, and then granted the justice that she was asking for, because
Hmm.
they now had some kind of a relationship.
And isn't that the bottom line? The re-
Isn't that exactly? Isn't that I mean, you read that parable and you're like, okay, God's a jerk, but yet when you dig into it like this, you can't unsee it. Like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
that's exactly what God desires out of us. Is this depth of coming back and he delighting in us every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our church has been doing the Bible plan with the Bible Project and through a
Oh,
year,
yes.
you know, and love,
Yes.
love, love, love that. But just so much of coming back to, come back to me. I'm here waiting for you, you know. Look at what you guys are doing. It's just like, this isn't the best way. My way really is the best way. Trust me, come back. Trust me, you know,
Right, right,
all the way through.
right.
It's just, yeah.
But, unfair things happen in our life. I mean, unfair things break that trust. So, again, we call this the larger story God. Do we trust the God who holds the larger story? Or do we just take the small view of God and say, I'm out because, this unfair thing happened?
Hmm.
And while your heart is broken,
Yeah.
it's hard to have that like a reasonable thought like that
Yeah.
because you're just reeling in pain. But then one thing we also taught a lot, which they made me put into the Bible study, is how all of our emotions lead us to God. Like if we will give our emotions to God, all of them, we'll end up finding God in a whole new way. It's when we are afraid of our emotions or we're going to numb our emotions or divert out of our emotions
Mhm.
is when our view of God changes. It becomes smaller. And then we, of course, all kinds of other secondary issues get brought up when we don't just feel all the pain or all the anger, all the disappointment. Because on the other side of that, you're going to always find this larger story God.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, what does he say to Job? Yeah. Wait, did you create the universe here?
Exactly.
Did you
Uh,
create the seas? Did you create all of these things? Do you think you have it all figured out? And maybe I don't, or what?
exactly. Exactly. And then there's this verse in Romans 2:4 that we talked about in the study and in a church here that how God is patient with us. And so thank God he's patient with us, which means we also need to be patient for the solution to our problem because it involves other human beings who God's also being patient with. But
Yes.
in the end, God is redeeming all of it.
Yeah.
So if I could be gracious for the patience God had with me during my angry years, or even in my long life as a pastor and the things I took control of as a pastor, um, and then I can realize God needs patience with everybody else who's involved in my story, so that we can all be redeemed.
Hmm.
So it's not always on my schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
Yeah,
don't know what part where your story fits into somebody else's,
exactly.
you know?
So that in the creation story is big, my story is big, and God is writing all of it. Hmm.
Yeah. I love that the song The Waymaker, just how even when you don't see God working, he's working in the background, he's still working, even if you don't see it, and
Uh,
it's um and you wait long enough and you see that, you find out where he was working in the midst of things. But sometimes right in the middle of it, it's just like I don't think I
that's
can go one more day. Yeah.
that's where our trust breaks. Like you said, if you can wait long enough, and that statement, I'm sure everybody just heard it and went, "Ugh, I can't take another day."
Yeah.
But yet here we're offering hope, but we're also saying, I hear you. Today is really, really, really hard,
Yeah.
and you have to wait long enough. So
Yeah.
tomorrow's not going to be much better, but there's a big game going on here, and you're going to win.
Yeah.
Just got to stay, brave decision to brave decision, which will lead you to a trust that's going to get you to the other side of this.
I think that's where journaling is really good, to be able to write. I call them, the build an altar. Like Moses or Joshua are going through and stop here, set up these stones for an altar to remember so that people will always remember what happened here. Uh,
Hmm.
another friend that I was talking to, she says, yeah, those are big rock moments.
Right. Yes, yes,
Know?
yes.
but if you write those down, then you can go back and say, oh, well, he was here and he'll do it again. He was here in this situation and he'll do it again, even though it didn't look like it to begin with, that's yeah. And if you live long enough, hopefully you see a lot of those situations.
I was just going to say before you spoke, I was like, just trust these two old ladies here to tell you that it is going to get better because there is something about age that gives you the wisdom to trust. I jokingly, but I really mean this. To do this Bible study, all I'm asking you to do is begin at a 51% trust in God.
Yeah.
Just over half to say, I think God may be able to work this out, but I'm really angry with God right now. And then when time you get done with this Bible study, you might be at 73%.
Yeah.
Unless you're an older person, and you might be more, just because you got that age for the wisdom.
Yeah. 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 I know. Does it keeps going and there's still things that I've just got to, keep trusting about. I haven't seen the end of the story yet, but I just have to keep trusting that he's in
You
control and maybe he's doing a work with the person in my life that needs that to happen.
right?
And, yeah. Yeah.
So
And there's anything
is
I can do to fix it. I'm not the one that's
right.
going to be able to fix it. So,
So you have to just trust: is God a good God, or is He this unmerciful judge?
yeah.
But then if you keep trusting God, then you realize, oh, that jerk of a God actually really cares about me because look at this and this and this and this.
Exactly, exactly. Just so good to keep writing those things down and being able to see them. We're talking about them over and over again, because your story helps somebody else. Everybody's story helps somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I love about just talking about Jesus.
I know, because this is just a conversation of two women who have learned something. Yes.
Yeah, I will be 72 next week, and it's like, yeah, I think I have learned a few things, and
Yes.
hopefully I'm farther along than I was way back at the beginning.
You know you are. And this is, the church overall, um, is one of the few places where we get to mingle with people like you who have this older aged wisdom, who have been through all the emotions and all the disappointment and still following God.
Yeah,
That, what a gift you are to your people in your life, into your church. Because we don't have many other places in our life
right,
where these people cross over. But to have you, selfishly in my church with my younger people, they would just gain so much wisdom from you. That's that's the gift of why we need to go to church. Probably that one reason alone.
right, right. So tell me about your
Mhm.
church. Is it a little bit different?
It's a lot different. Again, a youth pastor up until this point, so I already have this other perspective. We began during the pandemic, and that was I thought would be a temporary church, just um, because of the pandemic, was everything. The church was shut down. I was laid off from my church. Some of the parents of my teens came to me on the side and said, "We think you should start a church." And my husband leads worship. We're at a church together, leading worship together. So, ready-made worship team, and
We
um,
got part of it here.
yeah, exactly. And it was like, and this is the big thing. They said, they were live streaming like we all were back then, but that was so empty. And
Mm,
they said what we're missing is faith conversations, and to deal with the pandemic fears, the George Floyd situation, and where is God in this, and so I was like, well, I'm not afraid of faith conversations. I have a worship leader. Let's just meet over Zoom. What the heck, and see what happens. Again, it was pandemic. It was,
yeah.
so we began in October, that first year of the pandemic. And to my great surprise, I got people coming in from all over the United States. Some of my grown teens are finding, a way to connect with me again as their pastor, which I absolutely love. And then
Yeah.
we got strangers coming in. I don't know how they find out about us other than, Facebook or webpage or something, And so we're continuing. We're still a church. We're still meeting over Zoom. We meet on Friday nights.
Mm,
This is interesting too. The parents of the teens who asked me to start this church said, we're really liking Sunday mornings as a quiet time with our family and not losing half the day to church.
mm,
And Friday nights are a family night for us. So
mm.
can we meet on Friday nights? And so we we did. I mean, again, it was pandemic. We weren't going anywhere, right? But we're still meeting on Friday nights because another section of people that join us are people who serve their church on Sunday mornings,
Yeah.
but are not being fed in their church.
Yeah.
And so we got a group of people like that that are coming who love the conversations. A lot of them are the older, wiser people. So we're getting this older age wisdom we were just talking about um, through them, but they're also able to talk and shape the conversations. And so I've just with 3.5 years in, I've learned to not like put an ending on my message because the conversations become the teaching point.
Hmm.
Whether it's one of our young people asking a question that's a really good, honest question, because they're not afraid to express their doubts in this kind of a situation, or whether I ask a question and then it goes into this other direction. And again, I've been a pastor my whole adult life. I'm not living in the real world like people who come in the church are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the wisdom from these other people in response to something that I shared out of the Bible is actually probably more meaningful than whatever I had in my notes because it's coming from their perspective, living out, through divorce or through a job or through driving in traffic, these things that I'm really exempt from. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, one of my sons has just started on his faith journey at 43. But we've been watching The Chosen together, and it's just like, and he lives in North Hollywood, so he comes from it as a different perspective, from
Mhm.
as an actor and in that world and type of things, and it's just like, or from a producing point of view or whatever. Oh, I see how they did that, or oh, that's really interesting, and it's like, huh, I never would have thought of that that way, or and so yeah, I know what you mean. It's just having that other perspective is really
Really,
interesting.
really helpful. Because if I was just talking at them, they'd just be nodding like, that's really
Yeah,
wise, Brenda. But when someone says something, they're coming from their perspective, like maybe of a divorce perspective, all of a sudden that means so much more to more people than it does to just my perspective.
yeah, maybe there's a little paradigm shift on something, some thoughts
Yes.
you have.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you've also written a book called I Wish I Could Take Away Your Pain.
Oh, it's a tiny little book. It's got doodles in it. It's a gift book, I would say. A lot of it's autobiographical, but in a in a way, some of my brave decisions have broken my heart. Um, that's what this book is about. It's dedicated to the people who have stepped in and carried me through my pain. So hence the title. And so it's got just some of the things to do and not to do. There's 3 pages of things not to do to
Mm,
help someone through that. Um, one of the again, it's got doodles in it, so it's a real easy read, real quick read. But then you're going to go, oh, now I know how to help my friends better instead of giving a platitude because making my skin crawl when I would get a platitude. But I would also understand. So part I'm going to just share one of my brave decisions was the boys that I raised. I didn't give birth to them. They kind of came into my youth group and had situations and I ended up raising them. It's a beautiful story. But 2 of them ended up in prison anyway. Um, and so prison's very much a part of my life. And so I say when I'm talking to someone and they're like, particularly one of my boys got arrested a lot and served, like he was in and out for, every few years. So when he got arrested again, and I would like share this with somebody, I could see their face change.
Mhm.
or this is where the platitude would come, and and like, I don't need a platitude. I need understanding.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
even worse, the drive-by prayer. I will, I will pray for you, and then I know they're not going to think about it twice because they don't want to think about prison. They
Yeah.
don't want to think
They
about a
or
mom's
they have
broken
some kind
heart.
of a, yeah, some kind of a scripture that's like, oh, yeah, thank you. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
all things work
exactly.
together for good, or you know.
That is not what I need at this moment. I just need you to see that I am smashed, and I got to go to the court through the court system again, and I thought we were done, and I just need you to see me in this. I've been through the court system before, but here I am again. I just need you to see me. And so the book is about that. These things to do to really help someone when you don't have the words to say,
Yeah.
and the things I need to hear from you so that I can make it to the next day. And then through the next, the court system's long. So for the next year plus, and then the first day of prison, jail and prison are very different. Then the first day of prison's another day. And, I just, so it kind of, it's a really helpful, little easy to read book. And
So
it's
what do you
cute.
think are some good things to say? Helpful things.
Um, yeah, helpful things are, I will be here for you in a year. I will check in on you often. That means that today you don't have an answer for me. You may not have an answer for me in 3 days, but at least I know you're going to check in on me. So I'm not going to be wallowing in 3 days because someone's going to be calling me. Um, you will tell me what the outcome is going to be. Where, again, this kind of this larger story, that my son's going to be okay and God's going to redeem the situation. You will tell me this, and I'm not going to believe you because my heart is so hurt over this, and this is a repeat situation. And I believe that last time, and here we are again. But you will keep telling me this because you will keep showing up. I will eventually believe it from you.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to get me to the other side. Because not only did that wasn't a drive-by situation giving me a false promise. It was like you are showing up, you're checking up on me. You're not just giving me, churchy words, but you're just checking on me. And then you're telling me that this is going to be fine, and I will eventually believe you, and that's what's going to pull me up and pull me to the other side.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, especially at this point in my life, I can't pray anymore because I start praying, I start dwelling, and I start ruminating on all the bad things. And so it's easier for me to not pray because prayer just brings me lower. And I don't know if that's for your listeners, but it's sometimes I just can't pray. And this is a pastor saying this, but these people are praying for me in my behalf.
Mhm.
And I know that, so that I don't have to feel guilty for not praying.
Yeah.
I know that for these next few weeks, I got these people praying for me on my behalf. I don't have to try to figure out how to talk to God. I got enough to worry about, and they are doing that on my behalf until I can pick it up again. That is a great gift.
And God will wait for you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're still in a relationship. I'm just
It's not,
to actually pray about it makes me ruminate, you
sometimes
know?
when you're in that deep grief, it's just so hard to even see past, what it is.
Yeah.
And still, in your heart of hearts, you still trust that God's going to take care of it.
I do.
You
I
haven't
do.
lost that trust that the God of the universe that still chose you to be his
Right.
friend and child is still going to take care of it in some
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we're almost out of time. What would you like to leave our listeners with?
I would like to say, I hope you can make some brave decisions to trust this larger story, God, and to see God as being for you, even though right now you wonder, you know, that disappointment may be really loud right now, but that God is for you, and to just trust this all the way to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Good words. Where can people find you?
I write at bravester.com. That's brave, S-T-E-R, like hipster, bravester.com. And then you can find the Bible study there, or the Bible study is at trustissueswithgod.com, or Amazon, Barnes and Noble, et cetera, et cetera.
And
But
if somebody wants to join in on your
oh, good one,
trip,
because you
how
can.
about
You
that?
can. You can come in. I have people from California coming, by the way, which is crazy daisy at 4 in the afternoon. They're coming to church, but they love the conversation. So
Yeah.
anyway, so I'm just saying anybody can come, and that is largerstorychurch.com.
Okay.
You can go. Our Zoom link is protected, so you have to leave an email to get the Zoom link,
Uh-huh.
and just trust us with that email. But we've had some Zoom bombers come in that try to disrupt church, some
Yeah.
just so anyway, so we do ask for an email, and I just ask you to trust me with your email, and then come on in. Keep your camera off if you're shy, or if you're a back row person, just keep your camera off. That happens for most of our visitors.
Uh-huh.
When they turn their camera on, I know they trust us.
Yeah.
So do
Okay.
not think you'll be the only one with your camera off. Just try us if you're looking for some good conversations.
Perfect. Okay, Brenda, thank you so much.